So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me. It's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
So some definitions. To revise means to see again, right? That's the most literal definition. But another definition is to look at something from a fresh, critical perspective, which I love. Fresh is the key because I think part of the problem that we have when we write things, because we write them and we know what we're trying to say and we care about what we're writing, is that it's hard to get a fresh perspective sometimes. So I've got some ideas for how to do that. And critical is also key. I always tell people to draft like no one's watching and to not judge yourself when you're drafting. Just draft it. Seriously, just get the words on the page and don't worry about it. But when you revise, that is when you need to be critical. That is when your inner editor needs to come to the forefront. And then the third definition, an ongoing process of rethinking your work. And I love this one in particular because it's talking about revision as a process and not an end goal. Obviously, a book is going to eventually be finished in whatever form it's going to be, and then it's going to be printed, and then it's going to exist in the world. But I also think that even when books are published, you can keep thinking about how you got to the place where the book was published and what that can teach you about other stories moving forward. So, you know you're ready to revise when you've written a first draft. Hooray, 12 by 12, because we're encouraged to do that all the time. You've gotten feedback from a critique partner, an agent, or an editor. You've got an upcoming critique group or submission opportunity or conference that you want to prepare for. Something randomly occurs to you. It usually occurs to me when I'm walking my dog or taking a shower, and you know it applies to your manuscript. You have a deadline, or all of the above. Okay, so we are ready, right? We are ready. We got our draft. We are ready. I'm just here to let you know that revision is magic. If there is any magic in the world, it is in revising your work. You guys ready to rock? Lenny Kravitz. All right. So this is my process, and I'm just going to warn you ahead of time that this webinar that you're watching today is pretty focused on my work personally, because I know my revision process personally. So forgive me if I use a lot of examples from my own work, but that's what I know best, and I know where I started and the process I took to get where it ended up. But I do mention some other friends' books as well, so I hope you enjoy that. So this is my early revision process. I wrote my first draft, I read it, I let it rest. And when I say let it rest, I might just let it rest like for a couple of hours, or I might just come back like the next day. And then I revise with a small r. So this means like shoring up the language, shoring up the story to whatever extent I feel like it. And this is not like huge pressure time. This is okay. So like I'm going to get it ready to bring to my critique group, my friends. I just want it to be like in decent shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. I may not even know what this story is really about yet. You don't have to know right away. And I will tell you, and you'll see more in the next slide, this is a vulnerable stage, okay? This is how you should think about this. This is when your idea is like brand new. It's like a little bud, okay? And what you don't want to do is bring it to people who don't understand what you're looking for and are going to say, that's not very good. Can you change that word? And also, I don't know what you're getting at. Sometimes the point of a first draft is that you don't know what you're getting at. And for me and my personality, I like people, I like to talk. Taking it to my critique group early is really helpful. So those are different points in the revision process, and letting your critique partners know what you're looking for is helpful so that they don't kill your little bud before it blooms, or they can be super critical and be like, okay, this is the last time we're going to see it before it goes somewhere, so let's look at every word. But the most important thing that my critique group does for me so often is to help me find the heart of my story. So now the middle steps of revision, and this is going to be the longest part of this webinar, just like it's the longest part of a story. So I'm going to break it up into analysis, which is like the biggest part of everything. Look at the big picture, but also look at the small details. think about structure and function as a doctor, as a scientist. That is so important to me because that's the way everything is in nature. We'll talk a little bit about pagination, and we will talk about words, words, and words. So I start with my analysis. So I've gotten feedback from my critique group, and maybe I've done a revision based on that, or maybe not. Maybe I've accumulated all the notes I've taken from that, and I sit there and I'm thinking about, okay, how am I going to proceed from here? So here are the things I think about. What are the ideas or themes that I want to explore? And then also, what are the emotions you want to create? So often with any book, but especially with picture books, I know the feeling that I want to leave readers with. And that is what I'm writing towards. Okay. This happens in novels too. Weirdly, with all of my novels, I have known the last line before I barely had written any of it. But I knew what the last line was, and I knew that emotion that I wanted to end on. I can't overestimate how important this is. Okay. Similarly, what is your action arc or the external arc? This is related generally to the idea or theme that you're trying to explore. And then what is your emotional or internal arc? And looking for arcs reminds us that something needs to change between the beginning and the end. Okay. In most stories, the main character changes, right? Or even if you're talking about nonfiction, that you come to a different point of understanding than where you began, right? But the other thing to think about, and this is true of nonfiction too, that there is an emotional or internal arc because you've taken the reader through not maybe knowing much about your subject and given them all kinds of information. At the end, you want to leave them with a feeling of satisfaction or curiosity or wonder. So think about those things when you're going back to revise. Okay, so here's some examples of ideas or themes that you might find in picture books. And of course, the number of things that you could find in picture books are infinite, but here's some ideas. An unlikely friendship, a STEM topic, which is close to my heart. Sibling or familial love, overcoming a childhood fear, a biography of a fascinating but perhaps not well-known person. The concept of perseverance and persistence, which is so important in social and emotional learning. I mean, for everyone, but especially for children. And bonus, if there are more than one of these in your story. And similarly, bunch of emotions that you can consider. There are also more than this, but here's just some ones that I like to think about when I'm writing. Joy, wonder, love, fear, which is important to address, curiosity, and courage.
Together, so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12.
12 manuscripts.
12 by 12.
12 picture books.